Hello, and welcome to your Intercultural Learning Minutes. My name is Alexandra Schreiber. I'm a lecturer for intercultural skills and knowledge at the University of Göttingen. In this video, I'm going to talk about verbal intercultural communication. Let me share my screen for you. There you go. So intercultural learning can take place in so many contexts. Online, like this one, with online collaborative team projects on different topics, or also in the physical context. Of course, it's when you go to another place of the world for a field excursion, you have probably many interesting intercultural encounters. Now, verbal intercultural communication is a strong bond to form understanding, and it can be the source of some misunderstanding. So let's take a look at what we mean with intercultural. A cultural group is formed of people who share similar beliefs, patterns of behavior, and who attach meanings to events. They also express meanings in a similar way. So people from different cultural groups do it differently. Different meanings to the same event, and expressing meanings in different ways. One also can say people are wearing cultural glasses. That's what you see on this slide. And the cultural glasses, they influence the way we perceive meaning and we make meaning. Now, this is a person who is interculturally skilled, and this person is aware of the own default position in communication. And this person can analyze and reflect communication patterns in oneself and around. You see, like the antennas, they can send and receive. And this person has an interest in alternate worldviews, can adapt to cultural contexts. All in all, this person can communicate effectively and appropriately. So this is an analogy of culture as an iceberg. Only some part is visible and another big part is invisible. Communication in this slide is floating on the surface of the water because what we can see is very visible. That's the language. So we can see signs, symbols, and we can hear language. What it means, like the communication, is sometimes very invisible. Sometimes it's a mystery. So let's find out what goes on with some models on communication. Model number one is the transmission model. Messages being sent from one place or the other, more like a thing, and it's a one-way linear process. Number two, interaction model. Here, communication is a process, a sender and a receiver giving feedback and communicating like a match of tennis. And sometimes like a match, like a game of chess or ping pong, depending on the tempo and on the culturally learned expectations. Our model number three is the transactional model. Now, this is a little different because here persons are communicators simultaneously, encoding and decoding messages and taking in all the information around. That's why, you see some blurred lines here. So there's more going on than just in one way or two ways streets. There's more going on because communicators are co-creating meaning. They are creating a new shared reality. That's really important because that is also what intercultural communication is all about. It's more like people negotiating, arguing, agreeing on a mutual output. And here also communication is not only to transport messages, but rather to create relationships, to engage with others in dialogue, to create communities. That's a strong glue in intercultural teamwork. Building trust and understanding each other, being generous in understanding, giving the benefit of the doubt. So that is all happening here. Let's zoom in a little bit closer and take a look at three aspects of verbal intercultural communication. Aspect 1, language differences. 2, the how of communication. And 3, the level of directness. Number 1, language differences. I'm speaking English all the time in this video, although my mother language is German. So I'm using English as a lingua franca. I assume, no, I don't, but one can assume that in this lingua franca, the rules are all the same. It's English, but they are not. So there are some words that cannot be translated. There are some words that don't exist in other languages. So what do you do then? You kind of balance and try to make meaning using other words, but it's different. So it's different when you are using a language that is not your mother language. Second, the how of communication. That is the amount of words. So is it a good conversation when you talk a lot, when you use a lot of words? So that is probably a tendency towards individualistic approach of culture. So one person making a good conversation, using a lot of words, and silence, well, that is more or less awkward or even a threat. And in a more collectivistic culture, that would be normal to use silence, to give room, not imposing onto others anything. So you see, here we are in a continuum. So let's take a closer look. So the elaborate talk, that is standing out from the crowd, making a point, and developing relationships through the use of a lot of information. That is one how. We have also heard about the other how. Coming to point 3, which is the level of directness, that is just a way of saying things. This is important because there is no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just a way of saying things on a continuum that is shifting in context. So if on this continuum, you would say, oh, this is rather direct, then a person would use a lot of words, be very clear, very effective. And if this is rather indirect, you would hear more proverbs, stories, questions. So this is also connected to a concept of culture which is called low and high context cultures. Low context cultures, here words are used to make meaning. A yes is a yes, a no is a no. This is it. And the communication is rather direct, it's clear language, and the responsibility to make meaning is on the speaker. And we have the high context cultures where messages are more conveyed in an abstract, implicit, and rather indirect way. There's always an underlying message. You have to read between the lines, or you have to read the air. What is in the air? Kind of what is going on? What is in the context? So you have to be very attentive. You have to use your cultural antennas. And so pauses, silence, questions, changing the topic, saying yes without meaning it. That means saying yes and adding a lot of stories that give the idea that you probably mean no, but not saying it. These are all means to maintain harmony within a cultural group. So high context communicators say of themselves, we are very polite. We are concerned about each other's face, and we are sensitive about thoughts and feelings. We really want to maintain harmony in our relationship. Now, this also affects the way that problems are addressed or conflict. So is this rather a direct way, naming the conflict, addressing it, putting it on the table, making it very visible, and then discussing all aspects? Or is it rather a way of circling around it, never really mentioning the conflict itself, but rather, talking about it, talking to other people about this conflict, getting them on board and expecting them also to maintain their share in order to solve it? Also, is it rather expected to be emotionally engaged in when you are dealing with a conflictual situation, because it's important when you show feelings and emotions, or is it rather expected when you state facts and arguments and be very, very facts only? These are, remember, these are two ways of the way to communicate. And we always have a choice. That's important. And now you have a choice because you know about the different ways of communication. Think about what is your own preferred communication style. Is it rather direct, rather indirect? If you say it depends on the context, how do you feel when you adjusting to the context? So these are some food for thought that I would like to give to you. And maybe you want to discuss it with your peers. Now, coming to an end of this video, let's take a look at intercultural communication and the aspects of knowledge, skills, and attitude. Knowledge and skills are having the knowledge and being able to recognize different communication styles and patterns of cultural behavior, and also being able to change communication, being able to speak in different languages, being able to be rather direct or indirect, and to use a communication style accordingly, according to the context, according to reaching your goal, according to getting the job done, or maintaining harmony in a group. Because remember, we can all do, like on this, we can all walk on this continuum. And the attitude to explore this continuum, the attitude of trying something new, immersing oneself into another cultural group, and being open-minded about other ways of communicating. Now, and here we see this guy from one of the first slides. This person is very effectively dealing with difference. And this person is conscious of own communication. As I said, the default position of communication. This person is recognizing styles, variety of differences in all language, behavioral patterns, values, and seeing the whole picture, and actively seeking difference. So difference is something that is worth seeking, and curiosity is perceived as something positive. At the end, I would like to suggest some recommended readings to you to deepen your knowledge about intercultural verbal communication. And then, of course, I wish you a great intercultural learning experience. Enjoy it and enjoy exploring and learning more. It's a great journey. Thank you very much for watching. And thank you. Goodbye.